I mean, I think there's a lot more detail in the book, and I'll just sort of very quickly skim over this. But core to India's DPI is a set of principles that very much define the success of India's DPI. And it's important to sort of understand how exactly that works if you want to properly understand, what India's DPI is about. So, at the one level, the core design principle is this principle of interoperability that you spoke about. The idea is that you should create a digital building block that serves a particular purpose, but that could also be incorporated into other building blocks, so that when you're creating a solution, a digital solution, you don't have to reuse this concept again. So just take identity, for example. If you've got an identity building block, you should have some way in which you can reuse that identity building block in any other solution that you're doing. You don't have to rebuild an identity ecosystem. And similar payments, right? So we've got a powerful payments system. We should be able to integrate that payment system into some other commercial application, or into a tax application, or into a direct benefits transfer application. So I think this concept of interoperability is an extraordinarily powerful concept. It's core to DPI. Just to, and I'll do this once so that you can understand why we're harping on it. But the alternative, which many countries use, is this vendor-based approach, where they will, if they want an identity system, they'll go to a vendor and say, give me an identity system. If they want a direct benefit transfer system, they'll say, give me a direct benefit transfer system. And the vendor will build this end-to-end. And when they build it end-to-end, they will actually build a identity component, they will build a payment component, they will build all of these things from scratch just to solve this particular use case. That is incredibly wasteful. And the power of the DPI ecosystem is that once you build a payment infrastructure, you don't have to worry about building it ever again, because that payment infrastructure is completely digitally interoperable and capable of being integrated with any other system. And so I think that is the power of the interoperability feature. The other thing that we talk about very often is what we call federated data. The idea of this is, let data stay at the edges or wherever it is. When you use a new DPI, the idea should not be to collect all the data and bring it into a new centralized location. Keep it where it is, but ensure that you build pipes so that when you need it, you can access the information and make it available. But don't ever take that information and store it in a sort of centralized location. This is very important, because the moment you centralize information, you create a much higher risk of data breach or theft or any of those things. Look, we're always going to be at the risk of data theft. We're going to be at the risk of having some sort of a breach. But if we can keep data federated, we're lowering the surface of attack. If someone gets hacked, it's only a part of the data that gets hacked. You haven't compromised all of the data. And then, one of the core things that we try and focus on is this concept of protocols, and the fact that we must define protocols. This sort of goes into some of the techno-legal governance. I guess we can get into that later. But the idea behind referring to protocols is, around the world, we tend to think of platform. We tend to think that we must build these large, even government services. They look to building a platform, a place where the various market participants can come together and interoperate. The problem with platforms is that it has this sort of centralization risk that the platform becomes too big to fail. There's all sorts of competition-related, monopoly-related questions that come about. And we've seen many instances where platforms that were very important in a particular ecosystem eventually become corrupt. I say corrupt in not in sort of a pejorative way, but more that it just becomes difficult to achieve its original intention. And we can avoid all of that if we just allow people to interact with each other in the manner that they want, because we've published protocols. So if I want to connect with you, I know all I need to do is make the request in a format that aligns with the protocol by which you connect. And I don't need to create a platform for it. I can actually sort of reach out to you directly with my request. This is actually a very powerful way to think about it, and has many benefits and advantages over the platform-based approach. Yeah, there's a lot else, but I'll stop here because this is sort of the part of the book which is actually quite detailed, and it may be worthwhile sitting down and reading through those principles. Bundling is uh, perhaps a different way of talking about what I often call path dependence. We tend, when we come up with new governance frameworks, to look to the past and see how has this been done before, perhaps in another sector, perhaps previously in this sector, and then we tend to repeat. This is the way we did it last time. Let's just slightly modify it and do it again. Of course, we can do that, and there's nothing sort of wrong with that. But what the DPI approach does, which is very different from just digitalization, is it unpacks the entire workflow, breaking it down to its sort of basic atomic level, and then puts it back together again to achieve whatever the objective is. Now, when you do this, when you really take something apart and put it back, you'll find that as you're putting it back, there are many efficiencies that you can get by trying to put it back in a slightly different way. There would have been many reasons why in the offline world we built a particular workflow, but the digital world allows us to eliminate many steps in that workflow for many reasons. And if we just continue to use the steps that we use in the offline world, because that's the way things are done, we don't get efficiencies. Now, that is how we build the technology side of the DPI. But as I looked at it, I said, this is also eminently applicable to the governance side of the UPI, of the DPI as well. As we think of the laws, the regulations, the protocols, the contracts that govern our DPI ecosystem, why don't we just also see if we can unbundle the governance aspects of it? Is there new ways in which we can think through writing up contracts? Is there new ways in which you can think through, if a particular environment is described completely in code, where it's an entirely end-to-end digital transaction, do we need all the contractual provision that would otherwise have been required when we didn't have that end-to-end, right? And so, is that something that we can think about? So that's the idea of unbundling, to take an existing governance workflow, break it apart, and say, can we now articulate a governance workflow for this, but do it in a very different way that we can, come up with new outcomes and new alternatives. That's the idea behind unbundling.